The internet has a very special talent these days. It can make you feel worse about yourself, without anybody ever actually saying it to your face. One 22 years old quits their office job, like they just escaped prison. Somebody else wakes up, meditates, hits the gym, does skincare, makes money online, and somehow looks like a CEO and a fairy princess at the same time. And then there's the person sitting on a yacht talking about mindset, like being broke is just a positivity problem. And you're tired right after brushing your teeth. Welcome to the internet, where a completely normal life somehow gets turned into a feeling of failure. And the weird part is, it doesn't even do this in some obvious way. It doesn't look you in the face and go, "You suck." No. It's way sneakier than that. It just keeps showing you people who seem to be winning. One person is making millions before 25, flying business class like it's public transportation, then heading back to some rented apartment just to film a day in my life. And then somebody else already has their whole life figured out, while you still haven't figured out what you want to eat today. Watch enough of that. And suddenly a life where you have a job, food, sleep, and you haven't completely lost your mind, starts sounding kind of unimpressive. And that's the real scam. The internet doesn't just make you compare. It changes the baseline of what a good enough life even looks like. Back then, stability used to be the goal. Now, stability sounds like the warm-up. Having a job isn't enough anymore. Now you have to quit your job to live your truth. Having money isn't enough. Now you have to make money in your sleep. Living a peaceful life isn't enough. Now you also have to look good enough in vertical video to turn it into content. Stay in that atmosphere long enough, and your brain starts getting weird. And this is not just some feeling you made up because you're weak. Recent data doesn't directly say people are afraid of being average, but it does say a lot about social pressure, bullying, social comparison, and the pressure to constantly present a better version of yourself online. And honestly, a lot of people aren't actually afraid of living an ordinary life. They're afraid of being seen as ordinary. That's different. Because now, the issue isn't even whether your life is actually moving in the right direction. The issue is, from the outside, does it look impressive enough? Does it stand out enough? Is it rare enough? Does it feel ahead enough? Enough for people to look at you and think, damn, they really have their life together. And before you even realize it, you're not just trying to live better anymore. You start living, just so you won't look so behind. This is where a lot of people mistake it for ambition. From the outside, it looks like drive. Look a little closer, and a lot of the time, it's just panic, dressed up as ambition. You don't choose a job because it actually fits you. You choose the title that sounds cooler. You don't choose a lifestyle because it makes your life easier to breathe through. You choose the one that looks less lame online. You don't set goals because you genuinely want to live more deeply. You set them because they might turn into a good caption. That stings a little, doesn't it? But a lot of people are living exactly like that. Not because they're dumb, and not because they're shallow, but because this whole system rewards performance. And you need to remember this. The internet does not show you real life. It shows you curated life. You don't see the confusing years. You don't see the part where people were a mess, in debt, lost, fighting, or honestly just hated themselves. You only see the shiny pot. The pot they want you to see. A beautiful morning. A beautiful milestone. A beautiful body. A quote that sounds deep. A video called How I Changed My Life Before 25. Very inspiring, right? Yeah. That's the problem. Because online, a lot of people don't live first and then tell the story later. They live while building a more admirable version of themselves in real time. And if you stare at that edited version long enough, you start grading your own life with a completely broken test. That's why a lot of people aren't even doing that badly, but still feel kind of like failures. Not because they're living wrong, but because the ruler they're measuring with is bent. And the internet does that in a few really simple ways. First, it shows you exceptions more than real life. You're not seeing the average. You're seeing the highlight reel of the few, and highlights always look good. Second, it makes success feel way closer than it really is. You see someone your age winning big, loudly, beautifully. And because they're right there on your phone screen, your brain starts acting like that level is normal. Like that's the baseline. Like that's where you should already be headed by now. When? It's not. It could be an exception. It could be luck. It could be selective editing. It could be staged. It could be all four at once. Third, the internet erases the behind the scenes. You see the result, not the conditions. You see confidence, not the panic. You see clarity, not the 5 years of confusion. You see freedom, not the cost. And once that happens, a really dangerous shift starts kicking in. I'm moving slowly turns into I'm losing. I don't have everything figured out yet turns into something's wrong with me. My life is pretty normal turns into my life is embarrassing. That's the thing that slowly wears you down. Not some huge dramatic moment. Not somebody publicly calling you worthless. Just that quiet, constant feeling that your life doesn't look good enough. And once you start believing that ordinary means failure, you start choosing a lot of things wrong. You pick goals because they look impressive. You pick jobs because they're easy to show off. You pick a lifestyle because you're scared of falling behind. You pick image instead of depth. And from there, everything starts getting exhausting. Because now, you're not just living, you're constantly checking whether your life is measuring up. Is it interesting enough? Pretty enough? Impressive enough? Enough that if someone happened to know you, they wouldn't see you as too ordinary? Sound exhausting yet? Yeah, exactly. A lot of people are tired in exactly that way. From the outside, it looks like self-improvement. Look a little closer. And they're slowly starting to hate themselves more. Because if your ruler is a world full of exceptions, you're almost always going to lose. The internet is really good at making you confuse three things: impression, value, and truth. Someone who talks well doesn't necessarily live well. A life that looks premium isn't necessarily peaceful. Someone who seems special doesn't necessarily know what they're doing. And on the other hand, most of the things that actually keep a life stable usually don't go viral. Getting enough sleep, having a few real people in your corner, doing honest work for a long time, being able to tolerate boredom, knowing how to manage money, not losing your mind every time someone is doing better than you, knowing how to get through a day without needing to prove anything. None of that is sexy. The algorithm doesn't care. Real life does. And this is where I think a lot of people get tricked the hardest. They think they're chasing excellence, but a lot of the time, what they're really chasing is just a version of themselves that fits the internet. So, this isn't really about living better. It's about living in a way that doesn't look too behind. That is very different. One is growth. The other is performance. One helps you build a real life. The other just helps you make it look good from the outside. So no, this video is not telling you not to be ambitious. This channel is not anti-ambition. The thing you need to get rid of is not ambition. The thing you need to get rid of is borrowed ambition. The kind of ambition your feed shoved into your head. The kind that starts with looking at other people and panicking. The kind that doesn't come from you, but from the fear of falling behind, not standing out enough, or being seen as painfully ordinary. Because being ordinary is not shameful. Having a job that isn't glamorous is not shameful. Not having a personal brand ad, end quote. 23 is not shameful. Not having everything figured out is not shameful. A quiet, decent life that isn't all that cinematic is not shameful. What's way scarier is letting a feed optimized for attention define what a life worth living is supposed to look like. Your feed is not living your life. It's just making money off your attention. So maybe the real questions worth asking are not, how do I become more special? How do I become more impressive? How do I look less ordinary? But would this goal still matter if nobody saw it? Am I living more honestly? Or just performing better? Am I building something solid? Or just building an image? If I stopped getting attention for a while, would I still know who I am? Those are the hard questions. But those are also the questions that can actually save you from the trap of always needing to look above average. Maybe the most dangerous thing the internet has done is not making people addicted. Maybe it's making them feel ashamed of a life that might have already been good enough. And that's the scam that leaves so many people exhausted without even knowing why. Because they think they just need to try harder. When really, the first thing they need to do is realize the ruler they're using was warped from the start. Being ordinary is not shameful. Living fake is exhausting. Living honestly, deeply, and steadily is the hard part. And maybe that's the thing that's actually rare. What's the thing online that makes you feel not enough the fastest? Money? Looks? Career? Or that feeling that you always have to seem like you've got everything figured out? Leave a comment below so people can see different perspectives. And if you like this kind of content, and it actually helps in real life, subscribe to Vex Oriss.